Hello and welcome to Hexed Countered. I'm Joe. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at our next Solitaire Sunday game. It is Save South Vietnam. Sorry, tripped over my words there. This is from Fortress Games, and it is designed by Robert Phaneuf, I think. I hope that's how he pronounces his name. I always have a caveat for that because sometimes I don't want to mess up anybody's name, basically, is what I'm saying. So, as you can see, it is a solitaire game of the South Vietnamese and U.S. war against the Viet Cong in North Vietnam from 1965 to question marks. Obviously, we know when that war actually ended in real life. It's got a nice quote here from President Lyndon B. Johnson. Boys, it is just like the Alamo. By God, somebody should have helped those Texans going to Vietnam. If we look at the back, we have new optional rules. So there are some rules in here. New capabilities for armored and mechanized U.S. forces, new ARVN units, Rangers, armored and mech. Look out, new NVA armored regiments on the attack. Give peace a chance or clobber the VC and NVA. So you got a lot of graphics here showing the various counters and pieces of the map, etc., etc. And down here it says in 1965, it looked as if all was lost for South Vietnam. The Viet Cong ascendant. North Vietnam decided to tip the balance by secretly introducing its regular army regiments to the fight, even as the South Vietnamese army was in full collapse. It might well have ended right there and then, with the South Vietnamese additionally riven by internal rivalries and coups or the threat of coups. But President Johnson decided to send in the Marines, literally, to buy time and space for South Vietnam to rally. Now, General, you are in charge. It says, General, reestablish order, crush the Viet Cong guerrillas and the North Vietnamese army regiments, and rebuild the South Vietnamese army and police. All right, I am going to open the box. As you can see, it is still in its shrink wrap. So I'm going to open that up, and then we will continue our first look. All right, let us open the box. Here. Okay, we got the game manual right up top. So I usually start with the rule book, so why change ways now? Now this got a pretty thick cover on it, so that's good. It's not flimsy at all. Okay, yeah, Bob Phaneuf, game manual. So you have an intro here on the game. You can go to the website, fortressgamesusa.com, and click on South Save I keep saying South Save South Vietnam. Scroll down a bit and click on the playthrough link. So he's done some playthrough videos on the game. And then you've got your table of contents here. Looks like we've got about 20 pages, including scenario options and designer notes. So you've got your game board, and we'll see that in a moment. And it has a calendar on it, which is A. Then it has B, or down here is your phases, which is basically, I guess, like a turn sequence. Then you have C, the political cadres up here. D, the map, right? So there's our map. This is the play area. It's kind of turned sideways. E is province records, containing 2 tracks, political points and police. The name in the record is the name of the populous area, remote borderland. For example, Saigon Fishhook. Saigon is the populous area, Fishhook the remote borderland. F, U.S. Line Brigade Recovery Area. This is where U.S. Line Brigades replenish their strength. G is the combat results, political cadres lost in combat, NVA descend into populous area. So these are tables that are used frequently each turn and are printed right on the map for convenient viewing. And then we have H down here, which is a helicopter air cavalry B-52 movement limit. This track keeps track of your use of your limited air mobility. And I, which is along the side here, is our U.S. divisions. These boxes hold U.S. regiment and brigade counters not in play, organized by division. You have your divisional insignia along there too, which I think is pretty nice. All right, our counters. So the looking here, we have A, which is political points, I guess. B is the combat factor. C is the unit size. It's very small, but above the actual insignia there. D is the insignia unit identification. This is the 1st Brigade, and 1st Brigade of the Air Cavalry, as you can probably, as if you know what that is. E is the see, 1st Brigade, 1st Cavalry Division, and E is the strength level. Example is at full strength, but each X, as you can see, there are a couple X's here. Each X indicates a hit. When strength is when it gets to 0, the U.S. units become depleted. North Vietnamese Army units become destroyed. And what is F? Oh, F is an example of the same U.S. unit with 2 hits to strength, and then it says, right, when it's reduced to 0, U.S. units become depleted, not destroyed, but NVA units become destroyed. U.S. brigades also have the division emblem featured prominently, in this case, 1st Cavalry Division. U.S. ARVN counters are controlled by you, so you'll have U.S. HQ brigades, line brigades, helicopters, B-52s, ARVN regiments, and options. An optional rule for U.S. independent brigades. VC NVA counters are controlled by the game system and are your opponent. So you'll have your political cadres, your Viet Cong forces, your NVA regiments, and your anti-aircraft artillery, which is 2 variants, AA and no AA. Tracking counters, and then you have your game setup. So this is setting up the game. See back of game manual for graphic illustration. There it is. Okay, regular turn. Goes through all the different phases. And it goes pretty deep here. Then you've got your extended your end turn phases. There's a rule here for Tet offensive. Fallen provinces, Tet offensive. Game events, we've got Cambodia incursion on turn 21, the Laos incursion on turn 25, victory. You win if Saigon does not fall to the Reds. If the Saigon Fishhook province ever becomes fallen, the game ends immediately and you lose. Turn 50 ends and it has not fallen, you win. So basically, you just have to outlast the enemy, I guess. Then we've got some optional rules here. Optional 1 rule, U.S. independent brigades. There are 4 U.S. independent brigades that come into play if you use this optional rule. These units historically participated in the conflict and were involved in many of the important U.S. ARVN efforts. And it has an arrival rules here. Option 2 is enhanced ARVN military capabilities, Marines, Airborne, Rangers, mechanized regiments. The ARVN's truly mobile, and that's Army of Republic of Vietnam. I'm sure you guys all know that, but that's what ARVN is. The ARVN Marine and Airborne units were their truly mobile leg infantry. In the game, they are easily identified by a green background. 1 turn each year, the Marine and well, I won't read all that. And you have your Ranger unit, and you have mechanized units, and you have communist payback. What price must you pay for these awesome ARVN capabilities? 3 things. Potentially increased political cadres, increased NVA mobility, and NVA armored regiments. So they get some tanks, it looks like there. Short scenario options. You have 3 short scenarios. We have send in the Marines, which starts with the landing of the Marines at Da Nang in March 1965 and lasts through end of 67. So you're basically, we're playing the frantic U.S. buildup from 65 to 67. Then we have Cambodia and Laos incursions, which is the period of the war where the U.S. and ARVN went on the strategic offensive with incursions into communist-based areas in neighboring Cambodia in 70 and Laos in 71. These were part of Nixon's Vietnamization strategy, etc. Then we have the Paris Peace Accords, slightly tongue-in-cheek reference to the less than peaceful peace treaty agreed to between the U.S. and North Vietnam. Okay, yeah, so it talks about, how you're trying to ramp down, and North Vietnam is using this downtime to prepare a giant offensive for 75, 76. So this is kind of the historical end of the war kind of thing. So then you have information on each of these three shorter ones: send in the Marines, Cambodia, and Laos incursions, and the peace accords. Then we have our designer notes, couple pages of that, and then optional rules calendar-based cheat sheet. And these go along with the optional rules on pages 15 to 17. And that is the end of the rule book. So we'll put the rule book aside. Put that up there. And I believe this is the map. So I'm going to save the map for last. That's another thing I typically do. It's wedged in the box pretty well, I can tell you that. It also seems like it's pretty enormous. It's not mounted. It is paper, but it is very thick cardboard type paper here. So these counters are laser cut, which leaves a sooty residue. So if you buy any games that have had laser cut counters, you'll get something typically. Typically, the publishers are pretty good about putting something like this in, because you can you end up with some sooty black dust kind of thing there. Got 2 D6, a green and a red. And then we have our bag O counters. And first, let's take a look at the player aid. So there's a lot of tables on here. You've got political cadres received here. And then you've got a placement table. Then we have NVA regiments received and a placement table. So this is kind of for your AI opponent to lay out what they get and where they get it. Special Forces sortie over here. Order of combat losses. Fallen, how you determine if a province has fallen. It is single-sided. All right, that's pretty straightforward. Now let's look at our counters. They come in a baggie. So if you're familiar with like Blue Panther type printing, that seems to be what these are. Very similar. I'm not sure if this is in fact printed by Blue Panther or not, but it does have that same kind of feel to it. So you have 3 counter sheets here. We'll start with the half. So obviously we've got some South Vietnamese stuff here, including police. These green background ones would be some of their elite ones. So as it mentioned about the counters, so if I punch this guy out, you can see it's kind of like a very sturdy, and again, this is very Blue Panther style printing. I'm very familiar with this because I have several games printed by them. They're very nice and thick, and they don't bend because they're very hard, as you can see. So I don't have any issue with these at all. Although they, as you may, they are laser cut, and you can see the cut lines are very clean, which is typical of laser cutting. You get a nice clean straight line. So you won't have as many nibs and so on. I mean, if we take this one out again, you can see a slight nib right there, where I'm running my fingernail right there. But that's it. There's only one there's only one, and it's at, oh wait, well, yeah, there's only one, and it's at the top. So these are these are counters that you will not need to clip, in my opinion. In fact, I don't even know if they would clip all that well, because they are very sturdy. Then we have some of our enemy forces. So we have some Viet Cong up here. We have some NVA down here. We've got their armored regiments, if those come into play. Here's a turn marker, fallen markers for your various provinces, and then province or city markers, I guess, because we have, Mekong. You have Saigon here, Da Nang, Hue, Quang Tri, etc. And then we have our U.S. U.S. forces, I guess. So you've got your first cav up here. We've got some helicopters, and we've got the big red one. We've got some other divisions in here as well. Oh wait, that's not the big red one. That's the big red one right there. Sorry, we got the 101st Airborne down here as well. And then you have more markers. They are, of course, double-sided. And it looks like they're actually double-sided, but you actually have to turn them around too. Like this guy here is oriented that way. That's the top. But if you flip it over, that's now the bottom. or the top is at the bottom, I should say. So those are the counters. And again, once we get into gameplay, we'll get a much better look at this. I'm going to pause now and set up the map because I'll have to realign my shot here. Okay, so here we have the map. So as we saw in the rule book, it's got a lot of different areas. So you have your provinces here, right? So from Quang Tri, Khe San, to Hue, Upper A, Shao, Da Nang, Lower A, Shao, Qinan, the Highlands, Saigon Fishhook, and the Mekong Delta Riverine. And you can see the borders here, clearly printed on the map. And some of the cities, we got Pleiku here, Bien Ho, An Loc, etc. Here's Saigon, Vinh Long, etc. Right? Ways up here, Da Nang, Quang Tri. You've got base areas, right? So the Marine base here, Da Nang, as you might expect. Got the nice printed air base there. Also here, Cam Ranh, which is an Army base area. Over here, as it mentioned in the rule book, again, is the calendar. Starting in year 0, early 65. YE0. Maybe that's I'd have to look up what that means. I didn't catch it in the rule book. But you got early 65. You've got winter, spring, spring, summer, summer, fall, then fall, winter 65, etc. And then you get into 66, 67, 68, 69. It runs all the way down to the spring, summer of 77. Here we have our turn phases. So again, that's kind of like your sequence of play. Starting with U.S. ARVN movement, then combat, political points, U.S. ARVN in bases replenish, ARVN build regiments, police and VC recruit, and VAs descend on populous areas, U.S. reinforcements withdrawal, and in the year-end phase, you have political cadre deployment and VA deployment, special forces mission, and you lose 1 for each fallen province. Then you have maybe the Tet offensive, depending, and then you have your place AA. And over here, of course, we have our U.S. divisions. I called this the Big Red One. It's actually, of course, the 1st Marine Division, 3rd Marines, 5th Marine divisions, and then you have the 1st Cav, the 1st Infantry. That's the Big Red One. Our 4th Infantry, our 9th Infantry, the Americal Division, the 25th, and of course the 101st Airborne. You have our combat result table, political cadres lost in combat, and VA descends into populous areas. So these are tables that you're going to use that are actually right on the map to make things easy. So that is going to do it for our look at the game Save South Vietnam. This is our next Solitaire Sunday game. And in a week or so, hopefully next week, we will have a playthrough of this, at least start a playthrough of it. This will be a series, of course, as is typical of Solitaire Sunday. So there will be more than one, and we'll see how much game we can get through here. Perhaps I'll do the entire thing. I'm not sure how many weeks that would take, but that is the plan, is to do multiple videos on this, just as I've done for other Solitaire Sunday games. So as always, I do appreciate you guys taking the time to watch. Hopefully you found it useful. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them. Also, if you would consider liking, sharing, and or subscribing, that is always welcome, of course. But even if not, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll return to see something else down the road. And having said that, that is it. It is time to say goodbye. My name's Joe. This is the Hexed Countered channel. And until next time, as always, happy gaming.